Welcome back. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about 401k plans and when and where they're really appropriate, and then when and where to start thinking about maybe an IRA as an option. Now, I will definitely agree that 401ks are certainly a better option than not having anything at all going on for retirement planning. But once you reach maybe 59 and a half or really even 55, it's time to start thinking about what other options are out there and available. There's three main reasons that I always want to roll the money from a 401k into an IRA whenever that option is possible. And I know a lot of times people will leave a 401k at their employer just because it's been growing fairly well for them. But we typically will recommend if you're no longer with a company, your 401k shouldn't be either. The number one reason for this is really to increase your investment options. Now, 401k plans are typically designed with one goal in mind, and that's to grow the assets. They're typically a plan that's sponsored by an employer, so you're obviously still working. So the investment options that are in there is typically a few growth funds, maybe a couple of balanced funds, maybe a bond fund or two, and then a money market account. Well, those could be good accounts, but they're not necessarily geared towards retirement planning. They're geared towards growth in the portfolio. The second reason that we want to think about rolling over money from a 401k would be tax planning. Now, I know taxes have been a hot topic here over the last year or so because of the recent tax law changes, but inside of a 401k, you're limited. You're growing the money tax deferred, which is better than being hit with a tax bill every year. But with the taxes being as low as they are right now, it might be time to start thinking about doing some conversions. Maybe moving that money over from a qualified retirement plan that you haven't paid any taxes on, maybe into a tax-free investment that will now grow without having to worry about taxes later on in retirement. I mean, I know right now taxes are probably the lowest that we're going to see in our lifetime. Now, that's not guaranteed, obviously, but taxes are likely to go up in our lifetimes. So why not go ahead and bite the bullet now and get those taxes out of the way and let the money start growing tax-free so that what you have in your account is really what you keep in your accounts. Because taxes are real uncertainty. You may have $500,000 in your IRA or 401k, but what is that really after taxes? Is it 300? Is it 400? You really don't know because taxes are likely to change over time. So you want to start trying to roll that money into a tax-free account whenever possible. And then the third reason to start thinking about rolling your money over from a 401k would be to really get your arms around and control what's going on. I know a lot of times that people will feel like, well, I have a 401k at this employer that I worked at for 10 years, or I've got another 401k over here that I worked at that employer for 4 years. And you've been seeing some decent growth over the last year, so you feel like you're in the right types of investments. But a lot of times what we find is that's just not the case. You may have a lot of different accounts, but you don't really have any true diversification. You don't have the left side working necessarily with the right side. You always want your investments to complement each other and make sure that if you have a risky investment here, that you've got something a little more conservative over here. So you get your arms around how much risk you have, how much fees are actually going on inside of those accounts. That way, if you got them in 1 or 2 different accounts instead of 4 or 6 different old employer accounts, now you can really start thinking about retirement planning. Most companies at 59, once you reach the age of 59 and a half, will allow something called an in-service rollover. And what that means is, well, maybe if you got 2 or 3 years left to work, you're not going to retire yet, but you want to go ahead and start thinking about retirement planning. So most companies realize that. So at 59 and a half, they'll allow you to exercise that option called an in-service rollover, where you keep the plan in service, you keep contributing for the next year or 2 or 3, however long you plan to work for, maybe get that match for the next 2 or 3 years, but they allow you to take what's in that account, what's accumulated over the years, they'll allow you to roll that over into an IRA account. Once it's in that IRA account, now you can start working with a true financial professional or someone that understands different investment options and different objectives, and they can help you structure that plan to move into retirement or maybe even throughout retirement. Typically, if you have a 401k plan, there's maybe a guy that comes in or a gal that comes in once a year. If you're lucky, they may come in quarterly, and they'll help you to rebalance that account, or maybe they'll help you move a couple of things around, but they're not looking at the big picture. They're not looking at what your expenses are, what type of retirement that you really want to have. And they're just using a number as based on your age, and that may not necessarily match up with your goals. So if you have that option, the best way to find out if you do would be to ask your HR department, does our plan offer an in-service rollovers? Some companies don't even make you wait until 59 and a half. Some will allow you to do it whenever you want. So if you have that option, it typically would be in your best interest to go ahead and exercise that. Move it over into an IRA. Start thinking about taxes and how to be more tax efficient during your life. Start thinking about diversification. Are you in the right investments to accomplish the goals and objectives that you really have throughout your retirement? So if you have any questions about your accounts, check us out on our website or give us a call at the office.